The pound remains incredibly sideways, but I do think we're going to have an opportunity coming up here in the coming days. So in today's video, we're going to talk about that opportunity and what exactly I'm looking for and why liquidity is so important, especially right now in these ranging conditions. So looking at the pound, let's take a look here at this market on the daily time frame. So obviously, guys, markets have been mostly sideways, for the last few weeks, ever since back here on March 5th, when we got this big move up from the pound and the euro and other majors. And really since this time back here, since the market got above this mark, it's really just been a sideways range. Now, the one thing I talked about in yesterday's forecast is the fact that we have not seen a retest of this area down here for the pound, nor have we seen a retest of these highs back here around 130.50. So what this means right now is that, yes, we have a sideways range. However, we also have to be aware that there is liquidity that has built up here and also down here. And markets seek liquidity. In fact, as I'm making this video, you can see the market is once again pushing down here into these lows. And this is also what I talked about in yesterday's forecast, saying that we could get the move lower first to sweep these recent lows before we get that bounce. Now, the area that I'm watching here on the pound, all right, let me just walk through this. You can see the back here, we've got this low right around 128.30. We've got this high back here around 128.11. So this creates an area of support down here. Now, again, notice how the market never tested this area back here on these lows. Okay, so that means that, again, there is liquidity down here in this area and markets seek liquidity. The reason they seek liquidity is because if you're a big buyer, right, of a market, you're not going to buy up here at market because you're going to push the market higher away from your ideal entry, right? So if you're trying to be a buyer here, right, you've got to be looking at this area down here. You've got to look at this liquidity below those lows in order to fill your orders, right? Because you need liquidity to fill big buy orders because, again, you can't buy at market. If you're buying at market, you're just driving this market higher away from your entry. So that's kind of the idea here with the pound and what I'm looking for over the coming days. All right. So as of right now, it does kind of look like we're starting to get a little bit more data here to suggest that we could get that move lower down here to sweep these lows and into this area down here. And potentially from there, we get the bounce back within the range and then potentially up there toward 130.50. Now, I hate forecasting. I'll tell you guys that first and foremost. And by the way, yes, the weekly forecast is called the weekly forecast, but I don't like to forecast. I know that might not make a lot of sense, but you've got to understand too that people search for forex forecast. So that's why it's titled forecast, but I don't like to do this right here. I don't like to sit here and say, okay, we're going to come down here first and then move up to 130.50. That's not my job. My job as a trader is to react to markets, not forecast. So looking at this range back here, right? This is the range that we're in. But again, you can see that we haven't quite tested the extremes of that range down here toward 128 and 130.50. So again, what I'm looking at is a potential sweep of those lows and a move back here toward 130.50 to really satisfy this retest up here and also sweep that recent high. Now, this also lines up with the DXY. All right, so I like to use the DXY, the US dollar index, as kind of a confluence, to when I'm trading the pound or the euro. And you can see here that we've talked about this at length, but you can see that we have this level here off of these lows. And this was that failed breakdown that we got where we got the reclaim around 102.60. This is where I was getting very bullish on the US dollar. And you can see that that was also the start of a very aggressive rally. Now, the other thing to consider here is that the market is trading below these lows back here, this trend line, right? And this is a significant trend line. We know that because you can see that last year we did get a retest right here as new support. All right, so we got the breakout through here, retest as new support, and continuation. However, the one thing that we have not seen yet from the DXY is a retest of that same trend line as resistance, right? It broke through it right here, and this was a very aggressive breakdown. We have not seen a retest into this area, all right, right around 105. So like I've said in recent videos, I do think that we are probably going to get the DXY into this area up here around 104.90 to 105, all right? So this right here, if we get this from the pound, okay, so if we see this market come up here, test this area around 105, and then get rejected from there and come down here and test these lows, something like this, of course, that would equal, the inverse of that for the pound, right? Because we know that they tend to move inversely to one another. So something like this here. And again, guys, I don't like the forecast, but this is just kind of what I'm thinking we could get here over the coming days, and what could present an opportunity for these markets. Now, with all that said, okay, so how would you trade this? How would I trade this? It's never financial advice, but the way that I would trade this is I would look at these lows back here. So let's take a look at the 4-hour time frame. And you can see that we have these lows back here. Now, if you draw a horizontal across these lows, what I would do is I would draw a level right through here. And the reason for that is because you've got this low over here. Now, you could draw it from the extreme of this low around 128.60, but you would be ignoring this low back here and also this one. Okay, so if we get the break below here, right, which it kind of looks like we will, only because we have recently started to see some lower highs, right? Lower highs into support, typically a sign of some weakness to come. Now, if we get the breakdown into this area, what you could do, a couple of ways you could play it. Again, never financial advice, just my opinion. But what you could do is you could look for longs from down here, okay? Now, that's a little bit risky because you don't have confirmation that the market is going to hold there, right? All you're seeing is the market come down here, test support. So you don't have confirmation that this is going to hold. The market could just test this and then blow right through it, right? So you've got to keep that in mind. So the other way to play that would be the first way to play it, a little bit riskier. The second way to play it, that's a little bit more reserved and also high probability, okay? That's the key, is to wait for a break below these lows. All right, so these lows right around 128.73, wait for a breakdown below this to test this level, right? Satisfy that sweep the lows, test that area of support that we just looked at, and then reclaim this area up here around 128.70. So test this area, come up here, test this level, reclaim it, then you get that move back here toward these highs, right? Because this right here would signify a reclaim on the high time frames. So that's how I would personally look to play this if we do get the sweep of these lows first. So I think that that's a higher probability play than just simply looking to blindly, buy down here. Now, the advantage to this buying down here is that you have a better risk reward, right? Obviously, if you're buying down here versus buying on a reclaim up here, your risk reward, if you're targeting these highs or even 130.50, is going to be better, buying from down here than up here. And that's why too, so the third way to do this is you could look to combine these two methods. So instead of simply just looking, okay, I can either buy here or I can buy here, you would combine these methods. So you could buy a half size position down here at this area, right? If we get it, and then wait for the reclaim up here and then buy the other half up here. And that would give you an average, probably somewhere in this area, right? Which is still, pretty decent considering that you've got these highs up here in 130.50. So this is just kind of a short-term opportunity, guys. These conditions, like I've said before, are not ideal. These are not my ideal conditions by any means, but we also have to go with what's on the chart, right? We can't just sit here and look at this market and hope for a big move because we're just looking at a range-bound market here for the past few weeks. So one last thing too, with regard to the pound, if we do get that move lower first, you can see that off of some of these recent lows, we do have a trend line off of these lows that could come in somewhere, depending on how you draw it, somewhere around 128. Okay, so if you draw it off of, let's snap it to this low from right down here. By the way, guys, when I snap a level, I'm using the magnet mode in TradingView. So in the left-hand side, you'll see a little magnet symbol, and that will snap the trend line or any level to the highs and lows. And it's really, really handy if you're trying to get a level exact, which we should all be striving to do. So looking here at this level, right, if we snap it to that low and draw it off of this one right back here. Okay, so these two lows, what you'll notice is that it does come in right there around 128 or just above. All right, so a little bit more confluence to a retest down here. Now, we haven't seen a retest of this level since back here in February, right? So it has been a while. This, in my opinion, wasn't really a retest of that level. So a retest down here, guys, would make a lot of sense. But we'll see if we get it. Again, the market right now is holding above support. Really, in my opinion, if you're trading this through here, unless you're a scalper, this is very risky to be trading this kind of price action because you really don't have any kind of move to the extreme. And like I've said recently, you've got liquidity that's built below these lows and liquidity above this high. And so if you're placing a stop, if you're buying here and placing a stop down here, you're placing a stop right in the middle of all that liquidity, essentially where all the other stops are. And that's not a good place to be for sure. And the same thing up here. If you were selling up here and placing your stop loss up here in this area, again, you've got this liquidity above these highs right around 130.50. So that's also not a good place to be because there's a good chance you get stopped out before the market can move in your favor. All right. So all of this to say, guys, I do think that over the coming days, I would like to see, let me put it this way. I would like to see the DXY come up here and tag this area around 105, right? I would like to see it take out this high back here, tag 105, and then give us a move back here to the range to move toward the lows. Doesn't mean it happens. We could also get the move lower first to tag this level first and then bounce from there, okay? So it doesn't mean that we are going to get that push higher first from the US dollar. Same thing with the pound. It doesn't mean that we are going to get this first. We could see the market bounce from here, come up, take out these highs, and then move back within the range toward these lows. Okay, so just keep that in mind, guys. No guarantees. Obviously, nobody knows where this market is going to go or any market. All we can do is play the probabilities. All right, so in my opinion, again, guys, just my opinion, but if we were to get a move down here into this area, this is going to be your critical support, liquidity below these lows. And from there, in my opinion, or at least what I'll be doing, is I will be watching for a reclaim up here to play the range. And the same thing, if we get the move higher first, back up here toward these highs, I'll be looking at 130.50 resistance. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications. Don't forget to join us in VIP. Claim your discount in the link in the description below. Or if you're on the website, click on that Join VIP link. I will see you on the inside. Trade well out there, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.